So, yeah, Guild Wars. 20 years of Guild Wars. Bit of a strange one really. Because I didn't think I'd be here 20 years later talking about Guild Wars still. 2 days from now, they're releasing an update called Guild Wars Reforged. Did not expect that at all. So it says a lot about the current state of the industry, but I'd like to reflect on what Guild Wars has brought to my life over the last 20 years. To some degree I'd like to think that Guild Wars hasn't affected my life that much, but it really has. You know, I'm still here, I'm still talking about it, I'm still playing it. Not obsessively, you know, just on and off, but I'm still playing. So yeah, I guess it started 20 years ago, about 2005. My friend was absolutely obsessed with prophecies. He was just nagging and nagging and nagging. So I tried out the free trial, and the free trial gave you like 10 hours of playtime, or 14 days max, right? So you know, I'd play for like the odd hour here and there, and back then an hour was a lot of playtime. So it took me, I don't think I actually did the full 10 hours, I think I ran out of 14 days before I hit even 8 hours. But I was running on pre-searing, you know, just learning like troll and junt and doing the little quests, and it's definitely a time capsule. Like back then, like the quests were just kind of, you know, it was so early on in the game, but there was something about it, there was a charm to it. There's more to this game here than meets the eye. So inevitably I ended up buying the game. So I didn't buy prophecies, I ended up buying factions, and I don't think that was until maybe end of the year, like not long after it came out really. And I chose an assassin, which back then was probably the hardest character to play as a new character in factions. But trial by fire, I had a blast. So played the campaign, moved on to Nightfall. I remember Nightfall was just a whole different vibe. It was like it was a full-blown game, you know. Back then you thought of them as like kind of expansion packs, but they were full-blown games. The music, the atmosphere, the charm about it, everything about it like transported you. It was a true fantasy game, and I remember a lot of people were not as receptive to Guild Wars because of World of Warcraft at the time. You know, always bashing it, like, oh, it's free to play and that, whatever, after you bought it. I never even tried to play WoW, because Guild Wars was just perfect for me at the time. So there was so much rich content in that game. It obviously kept me playing to this day, right? So yeah, Nightfall. And then after Nightfall, I went back to play Prophecies. So we had ordered to play them through really factions, Nightfall, then Prophecies. But you know, they all had their own charm, and I absolutely fell in love with Prophecies. Once I had that playthrough, it was just a whole different campaign altogether, because it's such a long game and there's so much rich content in it. The map is absolutely massive, and you could tell they put so much into that. And when you look back at it on the timescale side of it, Factions and Nightfall, they absolutely just churned it up within months. It's incredible to think they had a full-blown games developed in that time span. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years, the North came out, and that still today is just absolutely brilliant. As a true expansion pack, a DLC for Prophecy is like, you know, it just took all the formulas for the second and third games. Well, I can't say third games, expansion packs basically, and just added on to them for DLCs, whatever. But I mean, I'm here 20 years later, right? I'm still playing Guild Wars. There's part of me that doesn't want to fully complete Guild Wars because I just love going back to it. I love just revisiting areas, and I love the music. And there's so much charm to it. There's all the elite areas, dungeons. You know, you got like Fisher of War, Underworld. You know, Heroes Ascent. The PvP was back in the day was so competitive. It was unbelievable. But yeah, it's like to this day I still have all the soundtracks on my phone. Like I just like subconsciously just play them when I do stuff. I cook, right, and I got the Guild Wars soundtrack on. I got Prophecy soundtrack on. I'm in the shower. I've got like Nightfall on or something or whatever. I'm doing something and there's there's Jeremy Soule playing in the background. And inevitably that's led me down to all of Jeremy's other stuff, like in Harry Potter, and obviously you've got the Bethesda games, Oblivion and Skyrim and whatnot. But it's pretty much been a constant in my life. Guild Wars has been there as a kind of constant. So no matter what's going on in my life, it's always there to fall back on. And it kind of helped me through university, it helped me through a lot of change in my life where, you know, I've had ups and downs, but Guild Wars has always been there. I've always had that kind of cozy blanket, should I say, that Guild Wars has offered. So yeah, it's definitely something that I've relied on in the past, but I'd like to keep alive now. Like, I've thought about Guild Wars going away a lot over the last few years, and I've thought about it truly dying and then turning up the servers or whatever else happens, right? But let's face it, the game isn't gonna live forever. So, being a software engineer, like part of my mindset and part of my future goal is to recreate Guild Wars in a way that will last forever, whether it be a community project or a way to run it locally, or even developing a game ground up in tribute to Guild Wars. Then essentially it's a mammoth task, but essentially there's a drive there to keep Guild Wars going. However, this news of Guild Wars Reforged and what they propose happened with the Guild Wars franchise, well, the first one, is incredible. It's pretty much kind of ironed out any concerns I have for the future of Guild Wars, because they seem to want to keep this game going forever, and if they can introduce new content and new quality of life in features, get the old code up and running, then it's just going to be there forever. I really don't see it going away. So what does that mean for me? One, I get to keep playing Guild Wars, and two, I guess, it continues to be a part of my life. I really love to pass the flame on to other generations and other players of Guild Wars, and relight the flame of Guild Wars in the community again. I'd love for people to come back to play, have outposts filled again. it's definitely something I want to see. You know, I can sit and play Guild Wars. If there's a week of my life that has nothing going on right, I know I can happily just sit there and play Guild Wars all week. It's like that. It's like that cozy blanket that never changes. It's kind of like, the analogy I think of is when you come home from a really cold day of commuting or something, and you know you want to sit in front of the fire and have a cozy warm cup of tea or something. It's like that for me. Like, it used to come home and just load up Guild Wars and just have it there, even if you're AFK, just having the sound effects, the ambience, just running in the background. It's just like that fire effect where you feel like, you know, you're a caveman, you don't feel right until you've lit a fire. Like, that's what Guild Wars has been for me in my past. As it happens, I've got all of my screenshots pretty much from day one of Guild Wars. So yeah, it's a pretty big folder, and over the years I've transferred all my photos back to the same drive with all the machines I've had. So I've got like an archive of pretty much screenshots from 2005 to 2025, and it's a big old folder of screenshots. But you can just see all the little memories and all the little kind of the flashbacks, and you know, going through these photos, you realise like what it's done as a game. You know, it's been a medium to explore and to discover all these places, and you know, interact with the community and all these fun times that everyone had. And everyone was always goofing about, and some really good fun times. And looking back at some of these screenshots, you know, it brings memories flooding back of some things that happened over the years, and it just makes me laugh. There was so many funny moments. Yeah, there was so much to be done in the game. It just has a vibe to it. You know, it's that perfect lightning in the bottle kind of game. And it was developed by super passionate people to make something that was truly timeless. You know, it was around that, you know, era of, you know, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. You know, it was just that very special time in media where things were made out of true passion. You know, off the bat, you could tell, you know, it wasn't, there was monetary incentive there, yes, that's why companies exist, but there wasn't greed, like everything is now. Everything's corporatized, you know, in a boardroom, and forecasted and built around monetization schemes. But Guild Wars was different. Guild Wars was built out of true passion, and everything in that game screams it. It's an absolute phenomenal experience. And for anyone that's a deep thinker and appreciates any degree of art or kind of thought-provoking, you know, philosophy, you know, there's little gems to be found everywhere. There's just something magical about it. There's truly something special about it. The music is just. The music is. It means more to me than any soundtrack would ever mean. Ever, because it's just. It's pure, like, people love Jeremy Soule for his Skyrim soundtrack, but for me, Guild Wars is one of the most underappreciated soundtracks ever made. It is absolutely phenomenal, and it suits and dresses that game perfectly. It was like he knew the assignment perfectly. And Jeremy's motifs, you know, you could hear in his older work that he did for Harry Potter and Elder Scrolls. You know, it's something that he did when he got to Guild Wars. It just lightning in a bottle. And even in the battle pack, the special downloadable battle pack, you can hear where he was leading up to for Skyrim. There's little bits in there, little motifs. So for me, it's that sweet spot. So it was the best of Jeremy's work, in my mind. The graphics were just, you know, people love World of Warcraft, but to me it looks cartoonish. Like the textures and everything, it's a bit like Vaseline-y kind of cartoony textures, but Guild Wars, to this day, it still looks so, how can I explain it? It's so like, it's mature, but it's timeless, and it was ahead of its time, but it still captured that kind of, that early mid-noughties kind of art direction. The textures were crisp. It was, you could get like 60 frames per second, and it was technically it was impressive. It looked really nice and smooth on the screen. The graphics and the engine, you never had to worry about. I'd never heard anyone having any issues with the gameplay engine, or like weird crashes and that. It just worked, and it worked bloody good. So they've done such an incredible job with the engine and the code base. You know, for the time it was programmed by that team, they used all idiomatic kind of programming principles and everything, you know, up to the latest standards, and apparently it's a really nice code base still to this day to work with. So, you know, super optimized for netcode. You know, it can just run and run and run and run and run. So the fact that they've given that degree of love is testament to why it still runs so well today. I'm hoping Stephen and his team, you know, being the original part of the original team, you know, that's quite exciting for me. It says a lot about the state of gaming as well. It says, you know, the promised land of where we will go into never existed. You know, we were so quick to rush to the next big thing, and so on and so forth. Guild Wars 2 I could never get into. It was, for me, Guild Wars 2 is literally just a different game altogether. It's a different franchise. Well, it's not a different franchise, it's a completely different game, completely different philosophy, completely different identity, if you ask me, but with the Guild Wars brand into it. So it's just a completely different game. It's in my mind, yes, it may use the same base engine, right? But it's in, you cannot draw many parallels between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2. It's just a completely different game altogether, and I just couldn't take to it. Guild Wars 1 is slightly more punishing, slightly more, you know, there's a learning curve to it. It doesn't hold your hand. It won't allow you to just run through each environment to get where you want to be, like you can in Guild Wars 2. Like, it forces you to learn and adapt and think about each scenario, each environment. So it was definitely, you know, it's definitely build based. You know, they call it Build Wars. But there's, I can talk for hours about Guild Wars. But the point I'm trying to get at is this game has changed my life. You know, this game has, it's been around for 20 years of my adult life. You know, the music sticks in the back of my head. Randomly in places I go, I can hear like Jeremy's little motifs playing. You know, I live in a very Tolkien-esque part of the UK, and I get Guild Wars 1 vibes in certain places I go. So I'll be walking the dog up, you know, up the quarry, and I get, you know, Sorrow's Furnace vibes, and I get chills, you know, I get goosebumps, and I'm like, whoa, this literally feels like I'm in, you know, the start of Sorrow's Furnace, where you're looking down into the excavations, and all the, you know, pulleys and cogs are there, and you know, it does give me chills. There's a walk not too far from here that's kind of marshy and swampy. Yeah, and it reminds me of Crater, you know. It reminds me of Temple of Ages. You know, when you're looking out to the swamp, you get these little chills and these little like throwbacks to Guild Wars here and there. And I've done it as well on holiday, you know, where you go somewhere warmer and I'm like, okay, it's a little bit like Nightfall here. So yeah, it's definitely influenced my life. It's definitely there in the back of my mind, more than I'd like to admit. So growing up, moving away from home, coming of age, becoming an adult, there's a lot to process, there's a lot to go through, and I guess Guild Wars has always been there for me, to stay in touch with that calmer, younger side of my life. And it's also allowed me to stay in touch with old friends. It's one of them games, you know, you can just jump online and jump straight back into a mission. You know, you can clear Underworld, or you know, you can just do some hard mode missions with friends and vanquishes, and even just hang out. You know, I'd quite often plan to just log on and do a mission, or you know, do an event, but for the first like 4 hours we just end up hanging out. So you know, you just plug in Discord and you're running about all these maps and outposts, and it's just a great way to stay in touch with friends, really. It's just, the memories come flooding back, the music, you know, the memories. You basically transported into your 14-year-old self's mind. You know, it's like a day hasn't passed, you go straight back to it. It's like you've never left, right? So it's been great. It's been a great tool to stay in touch with friends. It's been a great tool to stay in touch with something that I've never lost. There's a lot of people that feel now, like in their 30s, like gaming, they've lost a lot. There's a lot that people want to go back to, and I'm so grateful what Guild Wars still gives to this day. You know, it hasn't changed. Okay, you can argue that it evolved up until like 2007, 8, 9, pretty much been the same ever since, right? It's had a few quality of life improvements, but it's been a constant. It's been there. So you know, it retains all them great kind of game design features. You know, it's not predatory. It's there for the players. It's such a great vibe, the whole game. So yeah, it's fantastic to revisit. You know, I could just log on, turn my speakers up, and kind of just leave my character AFK and just like enjoy the ambience. Great sound design, you know, you've got Jeremy Soul's soundtrack playing in the background, and the little sound effects here and there that tie in with the environment. Yeah, it's so captivating. So yeah, a great way to just kind of switch off. I've never really struggled with like stress in my life because I've always had great means to control stress with, you know, and gaming's one of them for me. I can just so easily just like, okay, I don't need to be stressed, I'm just gonna chill out for a bit, play some games. Guild Wars has always been there in that regard as well. If I want a game that I can really just chill out and really burn some hours in, I can do that in Guild Wars now. Yeah, and you know, becoming an adult as well, you've got a lot less time on your hands. So I'd never really be able to have the time to start from scratch and rebuild what I have already in Guild Wars. So it kind of makes sense that I keep going back to my existing account and just adding and adding and adding onto it. It's taken 20 years so far. So it's definitely a comfort blanket in that regard. I'd say about 2 years ago, I had a real concern that Guild Wars was going to fade out and no longer be a part of my life. Whether they'd, decide to terminate the servers or what. I had a real kind of foreboding feeling that this game that I love so much might not be here anymore. So I took the effort to invest a lot of hours in after work, play a lot on the weekends, start recording. I started recording loads of game footage and just exploring like old places in Guild Wars, taking screenshots, reminiscing, just soaking it in, really indulging in it and enjoying it. And what I found was a lot of people are doing the same thing. But part of the zeitgeist as well of my age group is there's so many people that want to go back to that era of gaming. It was kind of the golden age of what it was to be online gaming. There was no toxic culture, there was no predatory monetization schemes, it was just community and camaraderie. It was a beautiful thing to be a part of at the time. So I feel a lot of people are craving that, and I feel like the industry is starting to hear that. So ArenaNet must have picked up on it to some degree to form this new lease of life, to pump back into the game, to rejuvenate Guild Wars, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a Steam Deck, and sometimes I play Guild Wars on the Steam Deck already. I've got my own control mappings for it, whatever. But what I can do is I can play on my PC and then switch it over to stream that PC onto the Steam Deck, so I don't have to lose my connection in the middle of a run or something, right? Or I can just start from scratch, reboot it on the Steam Deck. But this gives more options now. This quality of life update with native controls, it gives a new lease of life for it. And I'm kind of praying that a little bit of a resurgence comes back to Guild Wars, because I'd really enjoy doing some runs. And I realised that I really want to start making content for Guild Wars, just for preservation's sake. I want to be able to go back into Underworld and really enjoy a fresh Underworld run, and just capture the whole thing, and just kind of relive the early days of that Guild Wars, because that's what a lot of people are missing, is that early feeling of gaming. So yeah, it's never gone away, and I don't think it ever will go away. At least I won't allow it to personally. I'll always keep a certain chunk of Guild Wars in my life, if I can, one way or the other. But getting older and becoming an adult and that, I realise that like I'm of that age now where I can actually contribute to a product like Guild Wars. So it really inspires me to kind of produce something, software wise, game wise, whatever it may be, that can mirror what Guild Wars has done for me, give back to a degree. How I'm going to do that, I don't know. I might end up just contributing to an open source project, or one way or the other. I want to kind of figure something out to bring back what Guild Wars used to bring to so many people. There's something special about it, and I think if we can reignite more people to come in, new players, bring back old players, that would make me very happy, very happy. But You know, I didn't realize it at the time, but Guild Wars has definitely put a stamp, you know, on the industry in terms of real meaningful development of games. Because the fact that this is still running after 20 years is actually incredible, right? In work, I've developed a lot of online services, and they come and they go, and the fact that Guild Wars is still running now is absolutely incredible. It's a testament to what it was originally, the teams that worked on it, the passion, the love for gaming and the genre. You know, people who left Blizzard came to work on Guild Wars in ArenaNet, and you know, they wanted to do it in a different way, what they felt they needed to do, and they obviously did it right. Because 20 years later, this is still, you know, still a huge part of a lot of people's lives. So yeah, for me it's like Lord of the Rings, right? You know, you've got 3 amazing movies directed by Peter Jackson. You've got the exact same thing here. You know, it may differ in terms of story. Yeah, okay, it's not the same thing. The story is just, it is what it is, right? But Guild Wars as a game, as a service, as an experience, as a kind of, you know, it's for gamers, it's for the community, it's for the love of what it is. It's its own thing, and it's done that exceptionally well. And I don't really agree too much on where things went with Guild Wars 2. And at the time I was so excited for Guild Wars 2. It never scratched the itch. Never, 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 never. There's a charm, there's a degree of Guild Wars 1 that nothing will ever truly compare against. It's just its own thing. I've never played a game that had so many different types of builds in terms of, you know, primary and secondary professions, the way you can mix things and play it. The playstyle is infinite, you know, replayability is incredible. So I think I'm going to stop recording there. I think the battery's low anyway, and I'll probably just waffle on for another 20 minutes. So yeah, Guild Wars has changed my life 20 years later, so I guess here's to another 20 years.